Hello, this is Mrs. Brown, and today we're going to look at graphing linear equations in slope-intercept form. So the first thing, what is slope-intercept form? Well, it's when you have y equals a number times x plus another number. This coefficient of x, we use m to represent and as the slope. And the constant, the number that's not multiplied by x, is the y-intercept. So let's take a look. When we're going to graph it, we have to start with a y-intercept. So in this equation, the constant, the number that's by itself, is 1. So I'm going to start with my y-intercept of 1. So this, of course, is the y-axis and the x-axis. So the y-intercept means this is the point on the y-axis that the graph touches the y-axis. So point plus 1, we put a dot. A slope of a half means to go 1 up and 2 to the right. So from this point, that's my rule. I'm going to move up 1 and over 2 and put a dot. Move up 1, over 2, and put a dot. Once I have that pattern, I can follow it backwards and do points this way as well. Then all I'm going to do is connect the dots with a line. So I graph the y-intercept, use the slope to find at least one more point, because 2 points determine a line, but it's easier when you're drawing it to have more than 2, and then connect the points with a line. So it's usually easier with a ruler, but close enough. Just graphed y equals 1/2 x plus 1. I know this is a positive slope, because when I read a graph, I'm always reading from the left to the right, and as I go from left to right, it is increasing. If it was a negative slope from left to right, it would be going down like this. It would be decreasing. So I would know that this is a negative slope, and this is a positive slope. Okay. All right, let's take a look at another example. Okay, so in this case, I have y equals x minus 1. Okay, well, because it's a minus sign, I know that my y-intercept is going to be negative instead of positive. So my y-intercept is -1. So if this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis, this is 0, so -1 would be right here. Again, it's the place that the line is going to cross the y-axis. So it's at -1. Now, if you look at this question, it doesn't have a slope, does it? It doesn't have a number next to the x. Well, remember that whenever you have a variable by itself, that's the same as 1 times that variable, because when you multiply something by 1, it doesn't change the value. So 1 times x is just x. So if I see x by itself, it would just have a slope of 1. If I saw a negative x, that would be a slope of -1, because that would be -1 times x. So in this case, it's not negative, it's positive, and so I have a slope of 1. Well, it's not a fraction, but any whole number can be made a fraction by putting it over 1. So this means 1 up and 1 to the right. So from here, I'm going 1 up, 1 to the right, 1 up, 1 to the right, 1 up, 1 to the right. And I can keep going with that. I can also repeat this pattern backwards to find some other points. And again, I'm going to connect those points in order to graph my line. Okay, so start with the y-intercept, then do the slope. All right, let's look at another example. Okay. All right, in this particular example, again, it's going to start with my y-intercept. What's my y-intercept? It's the number that's not multiplied by x. So in this case, it's going to be +3 because it's plus 3. So here's my y-axis and my x-axis. So +3 is going to be right here. 1, 2, 3. On the y-axis, we're always graphing on the y-axis to start with, because this is the y-intercept. And then I need to use my slope, which is the number multiplied by x, that coefficient of x, to find the next point. Well, it's -2. -2 is not a fraction, but any number can be made a fraction by putting it over 1. So -1 or -2 over 1 means 2 down and 1 to the right. So for all the other cases, I was going up when it was positive. So now that I have a negative number, instead of going up 2, I'm going down 2. So down 2, 1 to the right. Down 2, 1 to the right. Down 2, 1 to the right. Okay, and again, I could, once I have that pattern, I could go backwards as well in order to get some points the other way. All right, and then after I've used the slope to find more, I'm going to connect the lines. Okay. And that's it. Okay. Let's look at one last example. Okay. So this last example, y equals -3/4 x plus 1. What's my y-intercept? My y-intercept is the constant, the number that's not multiplied by x. So 1 is the number that's by itself is the constant. So that's my y-intercept. It's where it's going to hit the y-axis. Remember, this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. So 1 goes right there. So I've got a plus 1. If it was a -1, it would be negative, and I'd go down there. So it's a plus 1. My slope is -3/4. So -3/4 means 3 down, because it's negative, and 4 to the right. So 3 down and 4 to the right. I can't do any more this way, so let's follow that pattern and go 4 back and 3 this way. Okay, so they're in line. That looks right. And then I'm going to connect the dots. And that's graphing in slope-intercept form. I hope this helps and have a fabulous day.